nothing is fair about America. If anything, you are born with liabilities.
Middle school teacher has been fired from his job due to a video that he posted of children.
America is obese. Like we got a big problem.
And as much as I want to say, yes, there's historical trauma, but man, we got some historical gifts too.
He pushed past those feelings and he think about his vision. He think about his will, his plan, his ideas, and shit. He executes. That's man.
If it's a problem, it's a solution.
That's not acceptable for men to do.
I'm building, I'm writing down my goals, and I'm executing, I'm on my mission, tunnel vision.
I like the setting of man to man. Man, it's just like a safe space to just speak freely upon everything.
Like, we talk like men.
Peace, family. Welcome to the Man to Man Show, where we talk as gods. And today, we're doing something different. We in a new location. I got a special guest with me today, my good brother, Mr. Keenan Beasley.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How you feeling today?
Our first guest.
Yeah, no. He's not the first guest. He's the second guest because we had Pop Dorvey on here.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But he's the first guest in a new location that we got.
Okay.
And I got my good brother, Mr. 19 Keys, with me as well.
Of course.
Do y'all want to explain the new location?
Oh, we can get into that just as we flow. But, we in the stores in L.A. It's a private location that, we'll let you know at a later date and time when you're privy to that kind of information. But right now, we're putting it together. You're seeing the bare bones of it. I actually like this part of the process. I think it's more beautiful because social media always shows the glamorized results, right? Instead of the hammerized work. You know what I'm talking about? So I'd rather see the nails out. I'd rather see, the plaster on the wall. I'd rather see the unfinished. And then you can appreciate, right, the process, and it makes you appreciate the end product even more. So yes, we got a shop, and we'll let you know more information about that, but we'll have a link where people can set appointments. We'll have events and different things of that nature.
And it's more than a shop, right? You know what I mean? I
call it headquarters.
This is the house of culture, man.
Yeah.
So this is we are curating, cultivating, creating culture, right? In the factory. This is about putting infrastructure around the culture, and this is symbolic of just that. So what we're building out, what we're creating, what we're putting together here is it's important to the culture and the community. And what better place, man, than to do it in LA on Melrose? Come on.
Facts.
It's levels to it. It's levels to it.
First, before we kick the show off, I want to ask both of y'all how y'all feel today. How y'all doing, man? Mentally, is everybody good?
If we put a number on it, I'm about a 7. Strong 7 today.
What about you, Mr. Keys?
Man, I'm about fed up with this toxic world, man. I don't like sucker activities, and we definitely don't have a sucker-free world right now. We have a sucker-full world right now, and I think everybody's crashing out for likes and comments, and it's going in the opposite direction of where we need to be. And I think that people not zooming out and looking far ahead enough as far as what are your actions, how they dictate your future. You feel me? And I really just want people to think about, like, what's the point of what you're doing? Is it to satisfy an emotional need right now? Is it to satisfy a egoistic protection, right? Is it a shield? Like, let's try to look 100 steps out, because I think most people is looking like 2, 3, 4 steps out. You feel me? But I don't think nobody really thinking 100 steps out. So I'm seeing clips of Grant Cardone circulating right on the net, and he's explaining how he says that, of course, Indians and Asians are at the top when it comes to like wealth earners. Then he says Jews, then he says whites, then he says blacks and Mexicans, right? But towards the end of that, he says white people should be ashamed because, you have all of these afforded privileges, and there's no way in his statement as a white man, right, that he could settle for being in the middle, right? And what he believes, right, is his country, right? Especially with all these afforded privileges. That's the way that, he spoke on it with that tone, which to a point I can understand. And he's really speaking on the mediocrity that he sees that exists in his average fellow man, right? And that statement can be blanketed to people, in America, besides the different, prejudices that people face and discriminatory things that people have to go through, or traumas that people have to go through to get to what success looks like for them. And I really want to start it off with this conversation, like, because me and you had this. when we talk about success, like one person that comes from the hood, that comes from extreme trauma, right? Them coming out the hood at the age of 25 with a clear mind, right? Maybe they don't have six figures, right? Maybe they making $40,000 a year, right? Maybe they have a side hobby of entrepreneurism and they learning, right? That's a level of success based on their hurdles, right? That requires so much mental energy and innovative and creative thought and focus to get from where they came from, right? Adverse childhood experiences, lack of proper education, father probably not in the home, right? Seeing multiple friends die before the age of 19. They probably got, well, the average person may have connections. All they got is dead friends and trauma to get over. So when I see somebody make it from adverse experiences, I have to judge their success completely different than somebody who comes from suburbia America that, let's say you have a business or you're making six figures a year, right? Your success is not comparable to another person's success because they're starting further behind the line, right? And so I just kind of want to get to that idea of, you know, what is success? And it has to be based on comparable to your adversities.
I mean, I will say it this way simply. Success to me is progress. So progress is just any forward movement. So irregardless of your starting point, any forward movement or progress is success. So success is where your happiness comes from. What I like is I'm always happy because I'm always progressing, but I'm not satisfied. And that gets into complacency, right? So what I don't like seeing is regardless of your starting point, we will celebrate your wins or your progress from making it out of a project to getting a six-figure job. Absolutely. You should celebrate that win. You should be happy. That is significant progress. You should not be satisfied. There is more because you can see abundance. The goal should be abundance, right? And I think we shouldn't just stop at progress. I think we should strive for greatness. So that's where I'm always at. So I'm happy. I'm just never satisfied.
Well, what do you think about Grant Cardone's statement?
I think his statement wasn't directed at me, so I don't feel any type of way at it. I think he was talking to white men and saying that y'all have no excuse for being mediocre because they've created an institution that was designed for them to win. So if you've created an unfair game and you still find a way to lose, it's pretty embarrassing. So if I write the rules to a game and I lose, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's really what he's saying. So it ain't got nothing to do with me.
With all of the resources that we have in our hand right now, do you think the playing field is even and fair now?
I mean, it's not fair, and nothing is fair about America, or even, right? Because I'm a first generation curse breaker, right? I'm first generation trying to build wealth. I have zero inheritance. If anything, you are born with liabilities, right? That you have to get over from, you know, let's just say from like your health and your physical, like you're born with traumas in the DNA. On both sides of my family, there's traumas that I can trace that I'll have to get over, right? Whether you're predisposed to certain, you know, addictions and things of that nature, right? So when we talk about like the 80s and the 90s and the 70s, and we talk about heroin, we talk about crack, we talk about all these areas, that's in the bloodline that people actually inherited, right? So there's mental things that go along with that you have to overcome, right? So first I'm starting with health, right? Then we talk finances. I wasn't born with the network. Let's start with the network. Right? There's a level of education that's correlated to, you know, wealth. And then the network you get from being in certain environments, that's going to correlate to your wealth as well. I didn't grow up in an environment with a network, right? Where the people around me had, you know, were high income earners and their families were. So those connections weren't there. So most of my connections through my teenage years going up to my adult were useless in the sense that I'm not going to be able to call them up for a job, an opportunity, a loan, a check, information, right? Any of those things. So if you just start there from like, you know, from a health perspective and a finances perspective, no, it's not equal. What we're talking about now is despite it not being equal and despite it not being fair, right? But then that still is convoluted in the sense that you saying that I have to get over all these things, right? Regardless of what those challenges were. And you saying that because we're living in the same time period, right, that we're somehow at an equal advantage. Now that's a mindset. You feel me? That's granted that a person was able to develop that mindset, and that mindset is granted based on their patterns that they developed growing up. And if you was too stuck in survival, then you may have never been able to develop a growth mindset. So I've been blessed with my hierarchy of needs having to be in a pattern that's aligned with the growth mindset to develop the skills to take advantage of the time that we living in.
Now, speaking of a growth mindset or whatnot, I want to get into consequences outweighing intentions. So I had a situation that happened, and where a friend of mine, made a split decision to now he's, probably facing life in prison or whatnot, and it got me to thinking to like how many people make choices, intentional choices, that'll make their whole entire life spiral out of control, moving forward or whatnot. So, Mr. Keenan Beasley, if you don't mind sharing, has it ever been a time where
Mr. Keenan Beasley,
you wanted to take advice from where you should have took advice from a loved one, but instead you chose you made your own decision or whatnot, and it ended up not working, and you wish you would have took the advice?
First, I have to address the unfortunate situation of your partner facing incarceration. So I think as men, we have to be very, very careful allowing a temporary feeling or emotion cause a permanent decision, right, or impact. So we got to be very, very mindful of that. And this show is called Man to Man, and that's a manly principle, right? We have to watch that because we all feel it. It's not to judge anybody on anything. Anger's a real feeling. Sadness, these are real. Jealousy, these are real feelings, right? We believe in those, but they're temporary. Let's not make permanent decisions, So I really hope your partner gets out of that situation. So respect there on whatever happened. Obviously hoping for the best outcome there. But in terms of growth too, I have to jump back. So sorry, I'm gonna answer your question. But I was like, time, I gotta. There's a few things that were said, right? Because when Keys, we're talking about mindset, brother, and I appreciate that. You guys know me as this. I have a very positive spin on most things. It's just I can't help it. It's just how I was raised, right? And I'm forever an optimistic entrepreneur. So when I look at the current situation, man, I see that most people of color are not at a deficit holistically. We may be at a financial deficit. We may have started in the hole, right, from a financial standpoint. But we have so many other tools where we have a real advantage. We have a natural diversity of thought. We have a natural creativity in how to work with less. Like we are the ultimate hustlers. When we look at society, we have a resilience and a strength. And as much as I want to say, yes, there is historical trauma, but man, we got some historical gifts too. Like a lot of unbelievable gifts. Like when I think about just my family bloodline, like effectively my great-great-grandfather was bred like genetically superior, like in a number of ways. And when you look at things, you see intellectually, amazing feats that come out of Black Americans. Physically, amazing feats come out of that. So like we have these gifts that are known and proven to be superior than a lot of other genetic makeups. And that is a strength. So I tend to focus on that. Like everybody's got something to overcome. I think some of our hurdles may be a financial hurdle, but to me that feels like the easiest one. Right? If we focus on the strengths. I think a lot of the trauma-based discussions are distractions. And I think we need to spend less time talking about that and focusing in on all the unbelievable gifts, because if you feel like you're going into the game and your coach is going to focus on your strengths, you're never going to go into a boxing match and your coach is going to tell you, you know, you got a weak chin. He's going to say, hey, you got a real strong hook. Use that. Your jab is killer. You got to go into the game with confidence. We got to stop going into the game thinking we're behind. Because then you've already lost. And I don't think we're behind on shit. So sorry,
Yeah,
that's just a mindset thing for me.
That's the mindset.
That's why I asked the question. But I feel like that.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like I have an unbelievable advantage.
Right.
That's why Grant Cardone's statement, I'm like, they got to take that up with him. That wasn't me.
Because because in that same sense, I can say that to society, then I can say that to black men, right? And even though, like, we say this from a mentality of superior resilience,
yes,
right? And it's something that, like, your reality can catch up to your mind in the instant when you have certain realizations. Because, yeah, we can go look at statistics of black men. Statistics of black men don't paint a pretty picture. It doesn't paint a picture that we are aligned with the current reality, and this works for us. That's the picture that it paints, like from a health disparity, from financial, right, from home affairs, right. All of that paints a picture that this is not aligned with the spirit.
Yeah.
So when we speak from the mentality standpoint that there's a way that you can have a perspective to see all of this to win. And when you understand that the lotto, right, is being who you are, right, having a growth mindset and understanding the value of the time that you're living in. Because if you wake up to that realization, you're like, wait a minute, I'm living in a time where, and this is something like I talk about innovation in the future a lot, but it's like I'm living in a time where everything that I wanted as ideally, technologically as a child, we now have. Mm-hmm. But now that we have, do I still have that same spirit of curiosity to use it? Right? And a lot of people don't have that right now. Yeah. So it's like you live in this world and we spend 5 to 6 hours scrolling or watching content about somebody else's life where you're not focused at all on building. And most people have more information about other people's lives than they do their own, right? Because we always in other people's business and we don't know our own.
That satisfaction breeds complacency. Complacency breeds mediocrity. Mm-hmm. That's what Grant Cardone is talking about. And we have it in our community in certain ways too, right? If you look at the drive that, and I'm speaking specifically of African Americans or descendants of slaves, right? Post-slavery, you look at the wealth accumulation of the black family was tremendous, right? And then we're in a decline, right? Coming post-Jim Crow, post-integration. Mm-hmm. So when you look at those things, like the most traumatic thing that our culture has gone through was slavery, yet we built tremendous wealth. And so what happens is in the building of tremendous wealth, then you have another generation. They're not as resilient. Right. So now when you have the burning of the Elaine massacres or the Tulsa massacres, or you go through integration, we're less resilient, right? You're now a couple generations removed. Now you get into this next war. Okay, now we've gotten even more comfortable with certain things. We've been afforded certain privileges, right? Different things. Every time you get a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more satisfied, you reduce your resilience. Right, and your strength. Sometimes we got to remind ourselves of that. That's why it's good to go through battles. You want to be tested. You want to go through wars. It makes you stronger. That's why you see guys that go through incarceration and they come out and they're stronger than ever. Right. Right, because they had to be mentally strong and they were fortified going through something horrific of being in a prison, right? You want to go through a really tough training camp. You don't want an easy training camp going into a football season, into a fight, into a basketball, whatever. We always want the camp to be strenuous. That's why we have to be careful with our kids. You don't want your kids to have too easy of a life. Yeah. Right? You want the upbringing to be, you don't want to spoil them because you want to create, this is training camp. Because the game is out there. The war is out there. I gotta train you. So nah, we need to have discipline. Get up, make your bed.
Yes, spoiling your son is the worst thing you can do. Because you got to think about, think about specifically the son, right? In the way that we think about man to man. But because think about when you want to spoil your girl, what are you trying to do? You want her to be soft. right? You want her to feel like she ain't got to do nothing. Everything is taken care of, right? That's why you want your girl to have that feeling and just resort into her feminine. So why would you do that to your son?
You know, I got 2 daughters. That ain't the goal. That ain't the goal. But
Well, I'm talking when I say I say your girl, not like your daughters.
Yeah.
Like I mean like your woman. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, think about the idea. If you want to spoil your woman, what's the intention behind that? Like you want to see her melt in her softness. You feel me? To where like, baby, I got this all taken care of. Don't worry, I got this. Like you spoiling her for that intention of like her really resorting to her feminine. You don't want to spoil a woman and she like, thank you, that's cool. Like, no, you better like you want that gratefulness. I got this, everything taken care of, the whole nine. Like that's what that spoiling is for in the first place.
Yeah.
You're doing more than needed. That's when you spoil things.
No, for sure. And I don't believe in that. So you know what I mean? You
don't spoil your woman?
No, not in that sense, because I have a partner at home. So like,
well, I'm talking about on special days, not every day.
No. And I mean, they're in their
on her
special
birthday.
days.
You don't spoil her on dates.
You don't call it spoiling.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it spoiling, because then I would say that she also does that for me, right? Like,
so she spoils you too.
Listen, I don't mean that she in our house. We know we are preparing for war.
So you telling me.
I want her to feel safe. I want her to feel protected. I want her to feel loved. But I also want to make sure she's still got a little killer in her.
That don't mean that she can't be. Listen, I had this conversation with Nuri. Nuri was explaining how he's always super militant. Like when we get into lock the door, blah, 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 move.
Yeah.
Right? And he was like, man, I had to understand, like some days we gotta just have chill and like relax.
Yeah, that's nice.
You feel me?
Nice.
Like some days it gotta be, I'm gonna take you out and we go vibe. Like, no, you gotta create that. Why? Because number one, it's better for you in the long term, because you're gonna bring out qualities in her that you don't have. That's gonna stimulate you, right, in your role to be even better. Yeah. You feel me? Like you don't want you don't want a battle of wits in the household. You feel me? To where it's my logic against yours.
So I would say I don't spoil her. I pour into her.
Okay. We using our own
You know
words.
what I mean?
It's cool.
Let's it's semantics,
Okay.
but let's
It's
change it, because I
semantics.
think
It's
that's
cool.
what you're meaning.
Yeah.
Right. And so you know me, I'm on the words. Like we pour into each other, right? Because like you said, if you're spoiling something, it's eventually going bad.
But you're pouring into her.
I'm feeding
as much as you believe that she needs.
Absolutely. Right.
Now the spoiling is when you're giving more than
Too
you
much.
know she needs.
Yeah, we ain't doing that.
No?
No, we draw the line.
Draw the line?
Just enough.
Never. That's cold.
Never.
How cold?
Nobody
He a
said
militant dude. He didn't know how. Maybe I said I love you once. That's enough.
Hey, you don't want to overwater the plant.
Catch me
Can't
next
overwater
month.
it now.
Now speaking of children, right? This week
You got that no spoil love. Okay, no, I like this subject. He got that no spoil love. But I just wanted to, before we go on to the next subject, it's important. Do not spoil your sons. I always say that the purpose, right? As a father, you want your son to be like you or better, right? And you can't do that if you spoil your child, because there has to be some rites of passage where he gets to develop those traits to where he feel as if he can be on his own and independent and handle the world. And he can't do that if you're always doing everything for him. And when he goes into emotions and different things, like he has to feel I can manage these things for myself. That's when he goes into his manhood.
Being a parent is so simple. You're just preparing them.
I feel like
It's all.
like you said, on certain days you should be able to spoil your son, because I remember being the middle child. It was times where I felt like unseen in the house, like shit, I ain't getting the love that I really felt like I should get at sometimes, you know what I'm saying? You might not understand, because
I never was spoiled. Pops ain't spoiled.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you think my pops ever? Think about my pops. Think about my pops.
You can't spoil 20 kids.
Think about my pops. I never even thought about it like that though.
Ain't nobody getting spoiled.
My
But
pops, it was never even an idea. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't even know what that would look like if my pops tried to spoil me. Like that's crazy. It's such a foreign concept, but also I never looked for it. Right? Like that was always my mentality. I never looked for somebody to constantly reaffirm me. I never looked for somebody to say, yo, you gifted in this. Like it was just always a belief in self. And I think it created that independence that I needed. Right, so that when I wasn't getting it from the outside world, I was still getting it from myself.
See, like in my family, right, they call me the king and whatnot. And I found it like recently I found out why they call me the king. My grandma said that one day I was at her house and my brother was there, but he got a different mother than me. But he pulled up with some new shoes on, some new Jordans that my dad had bought him. And, you know, I looked them up and down. I looked at my dad. I said, "Where mine's at?" She said he was king after that. You know, in her mind, she's like, "Oh, that's the king," because he calling shit out right then and there on the spot, you know. Yeah. So that just let me know, like, certain kids do feel like if they look at their other sibling and they feel like the sibling is getting more attention and getting more love and gifts and whatnot, how come I'm not getting it? Do they love me the same? You know, so I feel like it is valid for certain days and certain times to pick your, you know what I'm saying, specific kids to spoil them, you know?
I mean, you gotta know that you loved. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's different. You feel me? You don't want to goddamn be in a household and everybody getting something that you ain't getting, because then that's a signal that there's something different in the relationship. Yeah. You feel me? So that's different. That's being equal. You feel me? And you grew up with girls, right? I grew up mostly in a household with dudes. So that's why the way I see it is a little different. They ain't had to call me king. Nah, I was seriously up all night. You know what I mean? I took a couple of drops of this, and I think I took it too late, right? I took it probably around like 5 o'clock. I didn't think it was gonna keep me up to like 2, 3 o'clock. But it was good though, because I was doing hella work. Like, I was knocking it out because I had to do a lot of stuff on the back end for the show. But the disclaimer on this one, don't take this if you want to goddamn be focused. If you don't want to be focused all day long, just knocking it out with no distractions. Because my mind was calm. I had my system ready to go. I was energized. And I was just boom, 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 boom. And once I got in that flow, I couldn't be distracted, nor slanted, nor taken off. You feel me? That Supermind really have you up there going. It's like Viagra for the brain. It had me definitely mentally up all night, for sure. Because it almost got to a point where it felt like I couldn't tell when I was supposed to go to sleep because I didn't get no drowsiness. But then I realized that once I got into bed, you know, I was able to naturally just fall into a sleep, so it was still good. It wasn't one of the ones that just, you know, had me with insomnia. It would just basically tell me when you want to go to sleep, you can. But beyond that, that Supermind had me working. Yeah, this my fix. I don't need nothing else, for real.
Now speaking of children or whatnot, you know, speaking of children, I seen a post that's been going viral over the past week where a middle school teacher has been fired from his job due to a video that he posted of children,
poor brother,
braiding his hair at school. And, you know, they fired him from, you know, after the backlash that he received online or whatnot. And he also, after the backlash and whatnot, and after him being fired, they found out that some of the students had his number and were texting him outside of school.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Keenan Beasley, since you got children or whatnot, I want to ask you this. It's a couple questions, actually. Do you feel like the teacher did anything inappropriate? And did you ever have a relationship with your teachers outside of school, and do you feel like it's appropriate for, you know, especially girls, to have a relationship with a male teacher outside of school?
Listen, I didn't grow up in a time where we had all the cell phones and stuff, right? So
right.
So there,
the right letters.
Like I had to.
It was horse and carriage, brother.
Yeah, I just had to put it out there.
We had to mail a letter.
Yeah, man. You know, so there was an easier way to regulate those types of relationships, right? So if a parent wanted to reach me after school, they had to call the house.
Yeah, you had to leave
a message. What I mean? Yeah. So there was a filter, right?
It was a funnel system.
So now we're talking about direct access. Do I think a teacher should have direct access? Nah, I'm not really into that, right? Because as a parent, I want to make sure there's a filter, a layer of protection. At school, there is a layer of protection, a process. Now you going outside of that. So it's a little weird. And this is whether it's a little boy or a little girl. Because this happened with my nephew, where one of his football coaches was FaceTiming him at home. And I came and I looked at my brother-in-law. I was like, fuck you allowing this? Man, I grabbed the phone. I was like, why are you talking to my nephew? Because I just didn't like that he was trying to build a relationship and then trying to be, y'all not friends.
Yeah.
You're in a position of authority, and that's a child. So mentally, you guys aren't equally yoked. So that situation can go a number of ways, but that child is not in a position mentally to navigate what your intentions are, right? And understand how to compartmentalize what is within the confines of the role of teacher, coach, whatever. So no, I don't really like the idea of that. On this situation with the teacher, it was tough for me because, one, I don't know a lot about it, but what I saw, it's unfortunate because I think we need more black
teachers,
male representation in the education
100%.
system, right? So there's an aspect of that I love. I think that our kids today need people that understand and can relate to them and meet them where they are.
100%.
Right. And so within school, I love that. So if a teacher wants to do TikTok dances with the students or whatever, because they're trying to relate to them to get their
And keep the
attention,
engagement,
I am so okay with that. I think that's a beautiful thing. Right. When I saw them, whatever, unbraiding his hair or whatever, and he was making that fun, I didn't have an issue with that. So what was happening, what I saw in the classroom, I had no issue. If there are things happening outside of the classroom, as I said, I would have an issue. So I don't know the full context of why this brother was.
See, the only issue I didn't have an issue with the kids unbraiding his hair.
No,
because to me, like, and I might be wrong, but I didn't feel like he was this super masculine type of guy, you know. So I didn't really have a problem. I didn't feel offended or nothing. But I did feel offended if you have these 16-year-old women, young girls, texting a male teacher outside of the school. Like, I feel like if you're going to have a relationship with the students outside of school, the parents got to be on their text thread as well, you know?
That's it.
How did you feel about it, Key?
I mean, I think I went to the first filter of sentiment that Keenan did. When you really draw it back, right? Because I grew up, my elementary school, it was separated between males and females, right? We had male teachers, right? You had female teachers that assigned with both, but we never tried to establish a personal relationship with them. I personally believe he messed up. And I understand, like, culturally, we don't have this place in society to where it's like a tribal thing, right? It's a school system. Yeah. That school system is not tribal, it's not communal, unfortunately. So understanding the confines of the rules that you're existing in as a teacher, you're supposed to be intelligent enough to understand that. And what he's tried to do was bring a whole nother culture inside that school system, right? So there's no reason me as a man, whether he's feminine or masculine, I don't think that matters. I think if you're a man, I think the same, like, even if he happened to be, you know, people were saying like, oh, it'd be fine if he found out that he was homosexual. I'm like, that doesn't matter either, whether he's homosexual or heterosexual. I believe the standards should be the same across the board. There should be a level of boundary and professionalism, right? I would not, in no sense of reality, want to walk into a classroom when my daughter is braiding another man's hair, right? None. And I believe that the unfortunate aspect is that if you see this on social media and that is allowed, right, then it creates, and you say this is okay, then it creates that boundary for somebody else to do it. They may have intentions that may be different. So I think the boundaries are set up to protect the teacher and the child, right? Because the teacher, let's say he has no type of intention towards that. You don't know what's in the child's mind. You feel me? So those boundaries are set up important for a reason. And that professionalism should be there for a reason. And that has nothing to do, in my personal opinion, making that child brighter or turning them into a great thinker in life, whether they get the braid, they teach your hair, or paint his nails. So for me, I think the institutions of education have been turned into a joke, right, for that particular reason. You're not going to see Asian kids, you know what I'm saying, combing their teacher hair. They over there doing backflips and solving, calculus problems.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, right? And I mean, I think we probably all have friends that are teachers in the education system.
Yeah,
and we don't know how these kids' parents are.
Right.
We don't know what their environment is. I think there's just a lot of context before we're quick to judge. Again, I would have to see how are the kids performing in his classroom.
Right.
If they're performing well and he's found a way to get the best out of those kids.
Yeah, we haven't even talked. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Congratulations.
It's a school, and we talking about the relationship with him and his teacher. Nothing about the child's performance.
Yeah, like so.
That's what the school is for.
Yeah, I just have more questions on that stuff. Like I said,
So do y'all?
And there should be no private
feel,
chain of communication whatsoever. Like if you go to college, you emailing your professor, that's for the school system to be able to see. There should be no private chain of communication between a grown man and a young child.
Full stop right there.
So do y'all feel like the administrator's decision was justified, or was it too severe by firing him?
I think they had to follow the rules. You know,
I think if there was communication outside of the school, I think that should be grounds for fire.
Yeah.
Like full stop. To me, that I'm gonna separate the hair braiding.
Yeah,
because that's all I saw.
In the
right?
nails.
Like I gotta separate all that because that
in
was
the
nails.
The nails.
Oh, see, I didn't even know about that. Whatever, all of that. That's in the classroom. Nah, the text is a non-starter. You shouldn't be texting a child like you said through a private. No, man.
And you got to be careful with and this is my issue with the content as well. Like you whether the parents signed off for it, when you're using children for your content and you're an educator and you're putting that out there for the world to see.
Yeah, that's too
now
much
you're inviting for the whole world to comment. Right now, there's a negative swirling, right, of news and things of that nature and feelings around these young girls. That's not what that platform should have been. I only want to see you teaching. I don't want to see them braiding your hair for whatever excuse that you give.
But estheticians make good money. He should probably look into that.
Yeah, he
sound like that's what he's into. Anyway, let's go on to the next
don't be
one.
on
Man to man.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I can't.
Next.
Actually, I can't say like, it's like he was bawling his eyes out crying because the girl was texting him, and that's some things that I don't know his upbringing, right? This is some things where, when men get around other men, you have counsel. And maybe he's around children too much, right? And he don't have other men in that counsel. And to your point, we don't have enough male teachers. So maybe you don't have other male teachers to bounce back these ideas to be like, bro, don't do it like this, move like this, right? Because there are certain ways that you're going to move when you have that reinforcing system. And we know for a fact, like male teachers, the reason like that particular job of teachers has lower pay because, the founder of that particular school system, Horace Mann, seen it as a female job, and they looked at female jobs as weaker. So therefore it was attached with a lower pay, right? So this is why it doesn't attract a lot of men, because you're doing that based on passion. You're not doing that for finances and money. So when you do get teachers, that's the unfortunate thing. They're doing it because it's their passion to want to work with children and shape the future. And so I believe that this is an unfortunate situation that's unfolding in front of the world, because we absolutely need better marketing and branding and propaganda around that gets more male teachers into that. And we need higher pay for teachers, right, within society. And that's not something that we focus on at all.
I think we got to reevaluate the role of the education system as a whole. Like 100%. The whole thing has to be repackaged at this stage. Is an
and it's too
system.
Expensive.
It's just an outdated
because you told
system.
me what you pay, and man, that was like
childcare. Oh my God.
Man, that was contraceptive to hear that.
Yeah, that should be a good one. Absolutely.
All right. Now this my last question on children. Although it's a new topic or whatnot, and you probably want to get into this. It's probably up your alley right here.
Pause.
Let's talk about pause. Let's talk about Ozempic babies.
I just saw
the
that
Ozempic's Olympics.
The Ozempic's Olympics. Man. You dig? But look, all right, so
wow.
I don't know if you all know, but there's been numerous women coming out on TikTok and other social media platforms saying that since they've been using Ozempics, they'll be becoming pregnant while taking this drug or whatnot, And they tested this drug on animals as well, and on the animals, it's been a lot of birth defects. So, the parent company, what is it called,
Novo Nordic or something like that. Novo,
something like that. They advise people to quit taking the drug 2 months prior to having the baby or whatnot. But I want to know, like, why are people so obsessed with this drug, this weight loss drug?
People always wanted to lose weight. I think, America is obese. Like we got a big problem. It's a huge problem. This ain't small. This is a huge problem, right? So I understand, right? Because when I was in Perry, right, and I was eating, all of the food felt natural and it didn't get me full and didn't feel fattening, right? It felt like it was like literally absorbing, right, and I was turning that to energy. When you get to America and you eat the same thing, everything feels fattening. It all feels like chemicals, right? So I feel like we being attacked by the food. So it's one thing to blame the people. I understand, like the Ozempic is a side effect, right, of where America is today. When you go back into the 30s, 40s, 50s, and you look at the average body, it's not what we have today, right? The average body got an extra 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds on it, unfortunately, right? It's a lot of big backs out here. So I understand why people are taking the Ozempics. Now, it was supposed to be a diabetes drug, and a side effect that you talked about was the fact that, let's say if somebody is taking like birth control and even possibly, I believe, get your tubes tied or something, that you will end up having, even though it's supposed to be slim chances, right? You're going to end up having a baby, right? Because it's going to counter the effects of it. So it's almost like they created a drug that will actually cause fertility, right, in people that were usually infertile, right? So this being a side effect is very interesting because their logo is the bull, right? And we know the bull is a representation of fertility, right? Historically, it has always been. So I'm hard pressed to say that this is by accident, right? Pharmaceutical companies, when they got a drug that's about to make billions, you think a side effect like fertility is going to stop them, especially when we went through a baby bust, right, in America, and we actually need more babies. So I think, people getting slimmer and making more babies, they pushing them out. So I would just say be careful because as this thing going to continue to become widespread, and people want to slim down, there's going to be side effects of taking the shortcuts.
I mean, look, at this point in America, we are putting too many chemicals in our body.
Way too many.
And you can't test for everything. So a lot of these women are on birth control.
And the FDA approved.
Yeah, and so they're on a certain birth control, right? And now you're taking something that's regulating blood sugar and has a counter effect, right? It's just like if you're on birth control and you take an antibiotic, the women then know that it's going to negate the effects of the birth control. So they're more cautious, right, during that. That's what we're just seeing. And these drugs are very new, very experimental. And unfortunately, we're seeing stuff play out in front of our very eyes. And I think everybody needs to just chill and stop being so quick to jump on these fads so you can let some of this stuff. It's like we're voluntarily jumping into clinical trials. People need to just really just take a moment. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to start doing runs and marathons and, fastings, right, to get our community together because I think people need to see it, right? I think like back in the day, we had Jenny Craig. Yeah, remember Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers?
Tabo.
You feel me? Tabo. You feel me? Like, we got to get back to like working out and eating right. But Ozempics is, I think it's Ozempics is the rich man Jenny Craig. You know what I mean? Rich, and most of these people are on Ozempics, and then what they're going to do is they're going to sell you a fitness program afterwards.
And tell you that they don't even take it.
This is what
it
we
used to be
about.
the Slim Tea.
See, before we got on before we started rolling, right, we were talking about the cycles. Y'all better start watching Kim Kardashian because she feed the real trends. So if you look how she moved, she went and got her ass done. Everybody wanted big asses. So then all the women were in there trying to get thick. Everybody wanted thick thighs save lives.
Yeah, thick thighs save
Women
lives.
were going to gyms trying to get thick. They eating like crazy, trying to fluff up. Kim starts reducing plastic surgery. Got to keep up. Now skinny's in. She done made skinny. Now women, it's the trends are moving so quick. You need shortcuts.
Right.
So you can't just build up and do squats and glute bridges and all that to get a big ass. You got to go get a BBL. You can't lose weight because that takes too long. The trend is moving.
Right.
You trying to get into the next season of clothes, you got to take Ozempic. The trends are moving too quick.
You blame Kim Kardashian. I'm gonna blame
Cycles.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
What Eddie Murphy do, man?
Y'all ever seen the Nutty Professor? He was drinking that potion real quick, and then the next scene he hella skinny. You did. So I'm gonna blame Eddie Murphy because everybody trying to look like the Buddy Love now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, he tried it. Steve tried it, man. I give you that one.
He's Shaq at the free throw line. Every time. Misses.
But nah, man, that Kim K, man, she got people See, most folks, you can't afford to keep up with them trends.
No.
You got to Kim is really showing the world you got to have your pockets right if you're trying to play in this beauty game.
Right.
Because she throwing people off.
Yeah.
It's as soon as you catch up, she flipped.
That's her brand. What's it called? Slims or Fims? Skims. Yeah.
Nah, she in their bag, man. So, hey, listen, all the ladies out there, they got to be safe, man.
Yeah.
Chill out. And
Fellas,
the fellas too.
too.
The fellas is on that Ozempic. And
Yeah,
BBL,
they got the
Drizzies and all
V12.
that. It's a lot of stuff going on.
Everybody
doing too much.
The V12 was the V12 the fast one, right? That what I heard. That what Kenny said.
Man,
That what Kenny said.
My daughter asked me last week, can I buy her some Skims? Some of that. I told her I only support black brands.
That part.
She told me, she said her kid's black. She say, shit.
Hey, she gave you a great answer.
Yeah.
Your daughter's quick.
Kanye do on
I mean, yeah.
You might be on
yeah,
something.
yeah.
No.
I don't know.
No. So speaking of
Hell of a
trends,
counter, though.
because this goes into it. Like I'm gonna do a deeper analysis as far as like how these trends work and why they go and where cycles we at and how like social behavior is like truly affected. But if one person to study is B.F. Skinner, right? Because he was the one that coined, right, the token society, right? The way that even schools, going back to education, the reason you putting A pluses or like stickers on different things is because he focused on priming behavior, right? And he understood that people can be primed through reward or punishment, right? And it becomes an association towards it. So if you see, right, the top A-list star is getting skinny, then you want to as well, so you can now get the reward that comes along with that body, right? If it's thick and everything is attracted to that, you get that. So then we go back to media, right? Media sees that dissing each other, beefing with people, negativity, right, is being rewarded right now. So now everybody is saying, okay, let me follow this trend so I can now get those rewards because this is the way that people, social behavior is being influenced. When we did high level conversations, we did long form content and it's all positive and it's about multiple tiers of different subjects, right? So people say, wait a minute, he's getting millions of views. Let me do that same thing because that's now being rewarded, right? It's easy to see how people flow when people see what's rewarded or what's punished, right? So now we're seeing when Cat Williams did his interview and it's the most viewed, that's a world event, which changes the paradigm of what people sees as being rewarded. Let me go after people. Negativity is now being rewarded, dissing people, bringing up people names. The goalpost has moved so much as far as like what's rewarded and what's not. And this is why you can see people that are like streets and like men that used to have like codes as far as we're not going to talk about this because they'd be like, that ain't making me no money. But the behavior has changed. Now gossiping makes you money. So the goalpost has changed. So they like, wait a minute, this actually, I wouldn't do that because they ain't got nothing to do with no money. But now they like, if I gossip on bro and bring up people names, right, that will make me money. So now they're being rewarded for it when at first there was a code of conduct to where people go clown you and you're being punished for it. Now the very behavior that you're doing that goes against code is rewarding you financially.
Yeah, so let me reference I forget the brother's name, but it's an investor, and his statement was, by the time it's obvious, it's too late. Mm-hmm. So when we look at our time making content, all of these things, that is an investment, right? And we have to treat it as such. When something is obvious, it's late. So the person who goes first tends to make the money.
Yeah.
Then it becomes obvious. Everyone else, you're late.
Yeah.
So right now, let's be specific. We're talking about Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp came out the gate.
Yeah.
New year swinging. Crushed it. Knocked it out of the park. Money made. Everybody jumping on the bandwagon. They ain't getting no money.
Right.
So now if you're really smart and you're an investor, come with the opposite.
Yeah, go opposite.
Let me tell you how marketing works. It's the fascination with the familiar and the fascination with the abominable. Everyone tries to jump on the familiar. It's not where you win. Mm-hmm. It's the abominable. It's the shock. So right now, if I was to create a platform, I would do the exact opposite.
Yep.
I would lead with love.
Praise.
I would lead with praise. I would lead with celebration.
Well, you're getting too much game.
Too much game, but I'm not in this world. So I'm going to give give that out. Y'all could take that. That would be the smart thing. You want to be first. Sometimes maybe not first because you got to be courageous there. Maybe second. It's a lot of money to be made being second in this game. But damn sure don't be number 100.
Well, let's do that now.
Ain't no money there.
Let's do that. So we got to pick one person that we go give praise to. Who is somebody that you got that you would like to give praise? The opposite of dissing somebody. You go give them some praise right now, some love, some energy.
I want to give some praise just because it's fresh, man, and what we saw. I want to give some praise to Rants just for the event on Friday.
Oh
right?
shit, my bad.
Look, all that.
Yeah,
you know what Rants put on with the celebrity karaoke. Something that was an idea in his mind, right? Was birthed through the relationships that he had, and to garner the amount of reach and impressions in such a short amount of time, I think is something that should be celebrated because, man, that event was just love. It was just a good time. That's now 2 that we've been to, and I said, man, these are the parties we need. So, I'm tip my hat to that brother right there, man. It's a hell of a production.
I'll go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Order. I want to give praise to the good brother Yaki Awakening because I didn't get to see this on my timeline. I ain't see a lot of people, talking about this, but the good brother opened up an entire clinic in St. Louis, Missouri last week. Wow. You know what I'm saying? As far as trying to get people to come in and get their health together or whatnot. And I want to commend that, especially because I'm from St. Louis and I know how many people need it mentally, physically, spiritually. They need that place where they can go and just heal, you know what I'm saying? And I just want to commend him for actually putting the effort in it and bringing it to fruition because he's been talking about this for a while. And he actually built all his content around there, so shout out to the good brother Yaki Awakening.
I want to give praise to my good brother, Golden Child. So Golden Child is somebody who did the opposite of the trends, right? He came out being his original legitimate self, right? He in the hoods of Chicago, a lot of work that people never get to see, right? When he out there in the trenches, with those brothers and sisters in the streets, you feel me, with the FY, and he putting out music that represents the movement, and then he put it out and he was on the charts and everything, doing it his way. You feel me? Following that pathway, building up a brand, building up a fan base, releasing it independently. And now he got a show that's going to be coming out, a tour, I believe, like a tour stop that he's doing. So I definitely want to give my brother some praise and some support, and then even my younger brother, Bashir, he's dropping videos to his songs. You feel me? We've been waiting to see those for a long time. But I want to end this on some women though as well, because we all picked fellas. What is a woman that you've seen doing something incredible that we feel like we need to see more of?
That we need to see more of.
Right.
Wow. I mean, I'm gonna go with just on the business side, right? Fawn Weaver with Uncle Nearest and the distillery, right? I mean, I'm not sure how many black women have built billion-dollar businesses, but I'm guessing we could count them on our hands, unfortunately. So she's now solidified herself on Mount Rushmore, right? In the entrepreneurial world. But what I love about how she's doing it, right, is she's talking about the process. How she went about it, right? She's encouraging others. She's investing in others. Incredible how she's approaching that. And the second one, because I got 2 that just on the top of my mind, we got to give a shout out to Pinky Cole. Right?
You stole
we talked about it.
So look, let me stop. Go ahead.
Go ahead, do you? Go ahead. Because I got another one too. So
okay, all right. Look. It's a lot of women that are killing it. I love again how Pinky's bringing that that aggression to it, that confidence, like a bravado to the entrepreneurial game that is needed, and she puts her money where her mouth is. You know what I mean? Like for her to go ahead and put a donation out there, what was it? A little over $8 million, right? That she donated to the university. So, man, shout out to her because that is special. It's like, let's if we're going to win loudly, it's okay to struggle loudly. I think both of these women did that, right? So they're painting a very, very real picture of the journey. But I think they, as hard as they worked on stuff for themselves, they are pouring equally into others. And that's what this game is all about. It's what the culture needs.
Yeah. We talked about it before, but she's doing that economic challenge where she's picking a business and everybody's pouring into it. And I love that. I think that that's a format that everybody can follow. Like, I'm going to probably do that. Just adopt. It's like adopting a business. Just finding somebody you got no strings attached to and just giving them free marketing, right? And rallying your community to go support them. You know, we talk about it often that, you know, less than 1% of, you know, funding, venture capital funding comes to Black people, men and women. So we have to be our own solutions a lot of times, you know, and I think that this is taking the solutions in our own hands versus constantly external, right, shouting the problem out. So I love that 100%. I think it's the perfect use case for social media, right, and having a platform where you're not an influencer. That's when you become a leader.
Yep.
Well, mine's is not a specific woman. It's actually, I want to shout out all of the single mothers and all of the mothers who in a relationship. We just came off of the, you know,
To all
Mother's Day. I'm gonna shout out all the mothers around the world. You feel me? You know what I mean? But look, I'm gonna shout out all of the
In a
mothers.
relationship, out of relationship,
Out of relationship,
breathing.
whatever. If you're a mother, right, I want to shout you out for you know, giving your children wise guidance, selfless affection. You know what I'm saying? Having, you know, just being a moral support, you know, and, you know, just putting yourself second to make sure that your children got everything that they need in order to survive in this world, you know, because it get hard out here. Prices going up. It's hard to even get a job, let alone provide and pay your rent, make sure the kids good mentally. You got to be strong. And I just want to shout out all of the mothers, you know, because shit, my mama did her thing, you know, and you know, with what she had, and I ain't never had to go. I never went without in life, you know, and I know that she worked hard, man. You feel me?
Yeah.
So shout out to all of the mothers for real.
Love that.
For sure, for sure. All right, I got one last thing, Keenan. And we all can answer this, but in the grading from least to most important to you, right? These are the 6 primary needs, right, that human beings have. So give me your top 3 only. Contribution, connection, variety, certainty, significance, growth.
Connection, significance, growth.
Connection.
Right.
Oh man, look, me and Steve locked in. We locked in.
So that's yours as well?
Yeah, that was mine as well. And only because I feel like connections, when it comes to connections, right, a man can have, you know, he can have the money, he can have all of that shit, but it's about your resources for real, your connections. That's how you gonna get everything you need. You can't just have these connections either. You gotta actually tap into them. You know what I'm saying? Reach out to your resources you have, you know what I'm saying, and link up. That's how you gonna get your growth. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these connections come from having significant relationships or significant value to you and vice versa, you know? So that's why I would have chose those 3 out the gate.
So
I took connection even in a different way, but I like that way as well. Like I thought it was like human connection, right? In the sense that we need to have a closeness to the fellow man. Like to me, I think when there is a connection, and that's why I love religion, right, and spirituality, because it creates this connection with all of us because there's a common thread, right, of spirituality. God is flowing through all of us. Like I think it makes for a much more enjoyable life when you have connections. So I think one of the most horrific things we do is put somebody in solitary confinement. Like I can't wrap my mind around that.
Yeah, it's
like
torture.
The isolation is a level of torture that I think should be completely outlawed.
I went the last time I was incarcerated. I sat for 3 years and I had my own cell. Basically like solitary confinement. Yeah. That was the most peaceful I ever been because I didn't have to deal with all of the outside noise, and I had a time to self-reflect. But I was intentionally working on my inner self.
Yeah,
time, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I actually needed that isolation.
Hey,
But I know everybody
you
can't
made
handle
you
it.
made a positive out of
Yeah,
that. You know what I
everybody
mean?
can't handle it, though,
That,
for
that
sure.
speaks to your mental fortitude.
So
I flip out.
I want everybody to, at home, right, to list how you have yours in order, because the way you have your needs in order is directly correlated with how you go about living life and how you succeed in life. And you have to even think about it from a standpoint of people that you work with, right, and people who work for you, and how their needs are aligned. So let's say if a person is focused on growth, and this is why people always talk about a growth mindset, right? Growth, contribution, like significance. You're going to always develop skills when you have a growth mindset, right? And always focus on, right, measuring that growth in some sort of capacity. So when you have people that work for you that's focused with a growth mindset, right, and they focus on contribution, then they're always thinking about what skills that I can develop to add to, right? And how is that going to make me significant here? So it's like a funnel, right? The way that your pattern of needs are set up. And there's a proper arrangement that most people will say that based on how you have your needs, right, arranged represents a mindset of people who have a higher degree of success, right? And you have to think about people who are wealthy. Their needs are set up in a different way because it literally creates a funnel, right, of behavior. So I want to know from you all before maybe on the next episode, we'll actually get a breakdown, right, of that hierarchy of needs. But it's important to think about that. And me personally, I'll let you know, I think I'm always leading with growth, right? Because if I don't feel like I'm growing, you feel me? Like this thing is adding to me in some capacity, then I don't feel a connection to it. You feel me? And so for me, that growth mindset is probably the most important one that I have. And there's a lot of people who have significance as first. And I think that's it can be one of the most detrimental if you don't have contribution and growth in there as well, because you're going to want to be significant, but you may lack the actual development of skills to become significant. So it becomes more egotistical, and it becomes more individual to where it's based on you and not a contribution that you add. So therefore, you can't really work in a circle of people, right? And your primary need is to be significant, but for what reason, right? And why? And it may not be validated because you haven't developed the skills, you haven't added contribution, right? You haven't made anything that other people will find a value in, of service. And so I think there's a lot of people that I can literally like see how your needs are arranged and why you're failing. And until you change that, you're going to constantly run into the same wall over and over and over, regardless of how much energy you put into it. And I think most of society is chasing significance without doing anything significant.
And on that note, this is the closing of the Man to Man podcast, where we talk as gods. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find me at Steve Jones, AFNF on Instagram. Tell the people where they can find you at.
Keenan Beasley.
On LinkedIn.
Easily. What about Mr. Keys? There's 19_Keys.
Find me on 19 Keys on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Make sure y'all link and tap in with me.
Welcome to the Man